Bonjour. So today, I'm going to be talking about how to survive A-level French, because that is something that I have done by the skin of my teeth, but I've still done it. And I thought it would be useful to send some tips so you can also survive A-level French. Let's get into it. C'est parti. So number one, and I absolutely swear by this one, flashcards. Now, unfortunately, my flashcards have been sent to an early grave because I used tiny cards full of my flashcards, but it was discontinued by Duolingo. So I've now lost access to all of those, which is a shame because I hadn't actually learnt all of the vocabulary because I didn't really need to, because if you don't know, then we're currently in something called coronavirus, which meant that my year 13 was cut short, so I didn't finish the course. But I still had the flashcards made, I just didn't get to learn them. But another app or website that I like to use, you'll have heard of it, it's called Memrise. It's not as good as tiny cards, I'm sorry, I mean everyone seems to worship Memrise, but I've never been as much of a fan as what I was of tiny cards. But it's still good if you want to learn vocabulary. It's definitely worked for me in the past, it just wouldn't be my go-to. There are also plenty of other websites that you can use to make flashcards on, or you can just do it on paper. We can just cut up. I'm not going to tell you how to make a flashcard. You can learn them whilst you're waiting for a bus. You can learn them whilst you're on the bus, whilst you're waiting for the kettle to boil. Boiling hot. So flashcards, absolute must. Off the back of that, I'm also going to recommend Duolingo. Now, it's not fantastic for course-specific vocabulary, but just for getting used to the French language, or any language, it's absolutely invaluable. I mean, some of the phrases on there are quite bizarre, so you have to get used to that. But once you get past the bear who's dancing in a tutu, it's actually quite a good way to tune your hearing to the sounds of the French language. So the next tip sort of relates to vocabulary as well, but keep a little book, or big book, whatever size book you want, of vocabulary that you hear in your lessons, and just the vocabulary that you pick up. I mean, not every word, because, you know, you'd be there all day, but just in things that you think might come in useful to, say, if you're doing your IRP. It would be helpful to have this more natural vocabulary, which isn't necessarily on the specification. That's someone chucking something everywhere. But I mean, unfortunately, I've lost mine, and it was also all in flashcards on tiny cards, so that's gone. But I just split it up by month. So, I mean, in all fairness, the first couple of months of year 12, I would have up to like 200 words or phrases in like one flashcard deck. Then towards the end of year 13, it'll be like 15. So expect it to fluctuate a little bit. The next one, and I cannot recommend this enough, is to buy a book, a French grammar drills book, because, I mean, French, we all know what she's like. But this one here, I got it from Amazon, but it has everything that you could possibly want in it. It's just handy to get a little bit of extra practice out of lessons. I'd also, in your own time, recommend investing perhaps 5-10 minutes every day watching some French videos online. I absolutely recommend Français Authentique. It's a YouTube channel that just explains French grammar or things that might be a little bit confusing for a non-native speaker. He explains it in French that's understandable, it's not rushed. I found it'll sort of kill two birds with one stone sort of situation, because you're learning French, like theory, so to speak, whilst also listening to French, so you're tuning your hearing a little bit. Really helpful. You could also watch some French series. I watch Extra French. It's on YouTube, completely free. It's a little bit tacky and cringy, but to set yourself off being able to understand spoken French, it's absolutely fantastic. Next tip, to improve your just natural conversational skills, not necessarily spoken, but it can be if you want it to be, download apps like HelloTalk or Tandem, which allow you to meet native French people. really helpful, really helpful. It's sort of an equal balance of you help them with English, they help you with French. I've been using it for absolutely years. I've met plenty of great people. Or if you're me, and this isn't me recommending this, just download Tinder and put your phone location or language of your phone into French, and then set your distance to really low, like 2 kilometers, and then set it to go global. You can just meet French people like that, like snap. But if anybody asks you, I didn't tell you about that. Now, I wasn't a massive fan of this at first, but transcription proved to be really helpful. So I'd listen to a French video and then listen for a couple of sentences, then write down what you thought they said. And then on YouTube, it's a little bit difficult because the subtitles are often auto-generated and they miss the mark a bit. But it was really helpful for tuning your ear in, and then watch it back with subtitles. Then you can get familiar with how different like words sound, which will help you understand French and also speak it. I would also recommend, especially in year 13, following the French news. It doesn't have to be difficult. You don't have to go on to like the French version of the blooming Daily Mail. There was a really useful website called France Info. I'll link it in the description. It's a really helpful platform where you can just keep up to date with what's happening in the French world, because they quite like in the speaking exam for you to refer to statistics. I mean, you could perhaps just go into a student room and find some stats someone else has put on there, or just make them up in the exam. Like, as long as they sound believable, that's fine. Now, finally, I'd like to talk about the book. So I studied L'étranger by Camus, but I found it really useful to divide the book into the specific themes. You can just look on Sparknotes or a website like any other revision website, and they tend to be quite helpful for finding themes, things that it's worth mentioning in exam, key quotes, if you want some as well. But I just used sticky notes to colour code. And you can also, if you really want to go the extra mile, if you see any vocab in the book that you think, oh, that might be quite useful, just nab it, learn it, stick it on a flashcard, and then do the same for the film. So I did Au revoir les enfants. So yeah, best of luck with your French conquest, and thank you for watching.